Welcome into Outkick the Show. I hope all of you are having a fantastic Thursday wherever you may be across this great country or this great land. We got a lot to get to here. A coronavirus update. Fans in the stadiums without vaccine. Would they do it? There's a poll out. My audience disagrees based on those poll results. Tua just had his pro day. Donald Trump asked about Joe Exotic in the White House press conference yesterday, and unemployment claims hit 17 million. We began with the latest on the coronavirus, and mostly it is good news. We are poised now to hit 5 straight days of declining daily infections since the peak was hit on Saturday. We've already hit 4. The numbers are pretty clearly going to decrease for a 5th straight day based on what's out there right now. Only a couple of hours until they lock in. It will also be a consistent decline for the last 3 days in deaths, a pretty substantial decline today as the deaths continue to decline. We appear to have hit the peak, and everything is going to become, I believe, progressively better over all of next week. We continue in Italy. I believe we are now at 19 days of declining cases since they hit their peak there. Germany and Spain, which had big takeoffs, are also continuing to decline. Everyone who is a corona bro and is running around like their hair is on fire, talking about how everything is disastrous, they are being proven wrong time after time after time. I believe that many of us are going to be able to go back to work, back to regular lives of some form or fashion by May the 4th, which is the first Monday after this stay-at-home national discussion runs through the month of April. Okay? Now, a couple of things that I think are worth factoring in here that matter. Unfortunately, we just hit another 6 million plus unemployment claims. We now are at 17 million people who have lost their jobs. And this is where I think Donald Trump has got this right. He said we can't let the cure be worse than the virus. And right now, we are projected to have 60,000 people, according to the IMHE model, die of the coronavirus. That's awful. As I've said many times before, I wish no one died at all. But that 60,000 number is probably too high based on the way the numbers are tracking right now. And also, it's 20,000 less people than died of the flu 2 years ago. And almost none of you are aware that 80,000 people died of the flu last year. Moreover, I believe if you look at the data, which will come out in March and April, I think you're going to see that fewer people died in March and April of 2020, even with the coronavirus, than died last year in March and April of 2019. That's because the coronavirus people who are dying have mostly comorbidities. And if you're not familiar with what that means, it means that they are dying of multiple things. Right now, if you are in a hospice and you contract coronavirus and you die, they mark you down as dying of the coronavirus. That's even though you are in a hospice, and the reason why you are in a hospice is because they believe you are going to die. But if you contract the coronavirus while you are in a hospice, they mark you down as dying of the coronavirus. Almost everyone who is dying of the coronavirus in America has a comorbidity, by which I mean they have multiple illnesses. And if you happen to test positive for the coronavirus, it is going down as the only cause of death. Even with that being the case, we still are going to likely see less coronavirus deaths than we did of the flu 2 years ago. I'm not saying it's not significant. I'm not saying it's not causing an issue in the country. I am saying that we can't make the cure worse than what would happen elsewhere, and elsewhere is in the economy. And look, sophisticated public policy requires balancing interest, okay? And what I mean by balancing interest is, right now, it's an analogy that I think is an important one because people can understand it. If you said we have to take traffic accident deaths down to zero, we could do it. We could take traffic accidents down to zero in the United States. Do you know how we would do it? We would do it by mandating that no one could drive in a car and that no one could leave their house for a year. And if we did that, we would save 40,000 lives. But in the process, we would destroy our economy. Every year, 40,000 people die of traffic accidents. And some people say, well, traffic accidents aren't contagious. That's what people love to say when you point that out. That's not really true if you consider that traffic accidents are contagious over multiple years. We know that 40,000 people are going to die of traffic accidents in 2020 and also 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, on into the future. We're not sure that anybody's going to die of the coronavirus next year. We're certainly not sure that anybody's going to die of the coronavirus in 2030. We know that people are going to die of traffic accidents so long as cars exist and we don't have self-driving car technology. So in 25 years, assuming we have the same technology that we have now, 1 million people are going to die driving cars. We could drive the cost down to zero of deaths in cars, but in the process, we would destroy our economy. Similarly, when we tell everybody to stay in their houses, other issues arise. People, unfortunately, abuse their spouses or girlfriends. In Nashville, my hometown, they said that domestic violence calls are up 55%. Think about that happening all over the country. Massive increases. Massive increases in suicide hotline calls in many different communities across the country. Probably, unfortunately, a massive increase in child abuse as well. There are societal costs and consequences with every decision that we make. We can't balance out everything we do entirely predicated on the coronavirus. And so a sophisticated public policy requires weighing multiple interests in order to find the best possible balancing act of deterrence of the virus while also allowing our economy not to collapse. Think about all the people who are going to miss rent. Think about all the people who are going to miss their car payments. Think about all the people lining up to try to get food for their kids who can no longer afford to pay for them to eat. That has a substantial health cost as well, not to mention depression, the stress of being unemployed, the fact that the people who are losing their jobs are on the lower rung of society. All of these things become massive interests that have to be weighed as well. We can't just talk about the coronavirus. It doesn't make sense. We have to be more intelligent from a public policy perspective. And I think Donald Trump's actually going to do a good job of this because he understands the business side associated with it. So that in and of itself is the coronavirus update. The positive is by the end of April, we're basically going to have this thing beaten. The stat that I gave you on this morning's Outkick the coverage is pretty wild. 28 states in the District of Columbia had 9 or fewer deaths from the coronavirus yesterday. Let me repeat that. Yesterday in the United States, 28 states plus the District of Columbia had 9 or fewer deaths from the coronavirus. That is, over half of the country did not even hit double digits from the coronavirus right now. So I believe that we are rapidly kicking the coronavirus's ass, as I told you that we would, and we need to start putting a plan in place to be ready when the month turns to May in many parts of the country. Not all the parts of the country, but many parts of the country are going to be ready to go back to work. So that is, I believe, a massive decision that has to be made going forward. A couple of other different things. I get disappointed because I see clear stories with an agenda that are being reported as if they are true when they aren't. One of ESPN's top headlines right now is, and I'm trying to pull it up so that you guys can see it, one of their biggest headlines in sports is, poll, fans won't attend games without vaccines, right? Here is that headline. You can go see it. I just tweeted it out. There's too much bright light. You may not be able to see it. But the headline is, fans won't attend games without a vaccine. And somebody at a poll, they did a poll of 762 people, all right? 762 762 people. And as a result, 72% of Americans said they would not attend a sporting event without a vaccine. Okay? So I don't care at all what this poll says, because I heard it and I was like, wait a minute. There's no way that that is remotely true. And so I went on Twitter and I said, okay, you guys go vote. Would you attend a poll? I put a poll up. Would you attend a sporting event in the summer or the fall without a coronavirus vaccine existing? And 25,000 people have already voted in 40 minutes. 25,000 people have voted, and 80% of you said yes. Now, look, I'm not claiming that and you guys can vote in here right now as well. You can vote in here on both Facebook and on Twitter. I would go. I would take my kids. I might not encourage my elderly parents to go. I certainly wouldn't encourage anybody that has a communicable disease. But I would go to a big football game in a heartbeat, even without a vaccine. And this poll, I believe, that came out that's getting all this attention about the fact that people wouldn't go is, I believe, 100% inaccurate. Now, I'm not saying that my Twitter poll is perfectly representative of the American public, but which do you trust more? A guy like me who has one of the biggest audiences in all of sports putting up a poll and allowing people to vote, and 80% of people are saying yes, or a random poll of 762 people who may or may not be sports fans? I'm going to trust my poll. Again, I'm not saying Twitter's representative of real life. I think Twitter posters, people who send comments, are not representative of real life. I think polls are more likely to be representative of real life because a lot of you have jobs and you don't want to get fired for what you post on social media, but you know you can't get fired for voting in a poll and you want to go see the results. So I trust my poll over the one that everybody's sharing that's getting a ton of attention. Eventually, we'll probably get 100,000 votes in my poll, and 80% is a pretty substantial part of that. Couple of other things. Tua Tagovailoa had his workout today. Would have been his pro day. They complied with social distancing restrictions. I talked with Trent Dilfer, who's going to come on the radio show Monday to talk about this. So he's going to come on the Outkick radio show Monday morning to talk about Tua's workout. And I think there's a good chance we're going to get Tua on the radio show as well before we get to the draft. And Trent Dilfer told me that Tua threw fabulously well, that only a couple of balls hit the ground in the entire workout, and that he was that it's the best performance that he has seen at a pro day in 9 years. He said Andrew Luck was the other guy that he thought was phenomenal at his pro day, and that Tua made throws that very few starting quarterbacks in the NFL can make. Also said he looked fabulously good, recovered from the injury, had no issues with movement whatsoever. The video is going out to NFL teams today so that they can look at his workout, and we will see whether the Dolphins, whether the Chargers, who some other team, mystery team out there, might be interested in making a move to potentially go get Tua Tagovailoa, who had his workout today in Nashville, by the way, in Nashville. And we will see exactly how that video is received by NFL teams. But I was told that Tua looked absolutely fantastic. Finally, I'm going to close out the show today with a clip that I'm sure we can grab and share with you. If you haven't seen it, there are a lot of crazy and boring and not very interesting questions that Donald Trump gets asked in White House press conferences. But, man, the question of Donald Trump about whether he would pardon Joe Exotic was fantastic. Props to the White House press corps for actually having an entertaining question for once. Donald Trump handled it. If you want to see the clip and want to watch the reaction, Trump said he hadn't watched, not surprisingly, unlike a lot of you, he hadn't yet watched Tiger King because he's been a little bit too busy for that. But he said he would take it under advisement, which is pretty funny. We will share the Joe Exotic clip question from the White House presser yesterday. I appreciate all of you. My name is Clay Travis. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP, will be live tomorrow on Outkick the Coverage, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. I will continue to do these shows to keep you updated about everything that's going on in the world because, frankly, I don't trust a lot of media people to bring you the honest truth. You know who does bring you the honest truth every day? this guy. Love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. Kisses. Hope you guys have a fantastic Thursday evening. See ya. Love you. Thank you, Facebook.